Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to show you how to fix some of the bugs that we have in the game. And I did this yesterday and I changed a lot of things. So I'm going to try to explain everything I did. I try to remember everything, but we had some serious bugs when we were moving the frog. Basically, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to fix two different bugs. One with when we were moving the frog and it just seemed like the frog was drowning when we were like jumping into a log or jumping into a turtle and the frog, and that not always worked. So I fixed that, and I also fixed a question with the timer that I haven't seen yet. But basically, the timer, every time the frog was being killed, the timer was running was increasing the speed like it was decrementing. So that was also a problem. So let's see. First thing that I'm going to show you is fixing the movement of the frog. And we had two problems here. One problem was related to the turtles. And what was happening was that we had on the frog collision, we had an attribute I called is being carried. That basically it was a flag that said that if the frog was being carried or not by some other actor. And when that flag was true, so we knew that the frog was on top of some transport, like a log or a turtle. And so, for example, when you was detecting the collision with the water, you wouldn't drown because it was being carried. And that was the way we were doing. And we had a problem with the turtles because here on the code with about the turtles, what we were doing was that when the turtle was diving, so when the turtle was underwater, we were just setting that is being carried to false. And that seemed okay at the moment, but I didn't realize that I was not worried about if the frog was actually being carried by that turtle. So basically what this means was that even if the frog was on top of a log, when any of the turtles were diving, I was saying that the frog was no longer being carried. So, but the frog was not being carried by that specific turtle, and that was a problem. So what I ended up doing was I came here to the turtle and I added a new attribute called isSetIsTransport. And basically this tells us that if this turtle, this specific turtle, is transporting or is being a transport or not. So when the turtle is on the surface, it's a transport. When it goes underwater, it's no longer a transport. So you can see that when it goes underwater, I'm setting isTransport to false. And when it's coming back from the water, I'm setting isTransport to true. And this was a change that I did in the turtle. And now we are going to use this on the frog collision script where we are dealing with this whole being carried stuff or not. And now on the frog collision, we have a lot of stuff here as well. So here on the transport collision, where we are detecting collisions with transport actors, in this case logs and turtles, what I'm doing is I added a new attribute, which is a carrier, and the carrier basically we save in the carrier the actor that is actually carrying the frog. So now I have a reference that which actor is actually carrying the frog. And what I'm doing here is that if the carrier don't have a value, so if the frog is not actually being carried by anyone, or if the carrier that now is taking the frog is not the same that we had before, which might happen. We might be on the turtle and jump to another turtle or jump to a log. So we are just changing the carrier, and I want to update that. So what I'm doing, if we don't have a carrier or the carrier that we now have is not the same that the one that we had before, basically I'm just changing the speed like we were before, and I'm setting the carrier to the one that is now the current one. And after that, I'm having this here. And this is basically because, and this is also related with the other problem, so I might as well explain the other problem that we were having. The other problem was that we were detecting the collision with the turtle or the log and with the water. And what happens here is that when we jump to the turtles and the water, the frog detects the collision with both of them. So I was assuming that the frog would always jump and detect the collision first with the turtle or the log and only then with the water. And what we were doing was that when the frog jumped into a transport, we were setting the is being carried as true. And when we were detecting the collision with the water, if the frog was already being carried, then it wouldn't drown. But this was assuming that the collision would always happen in this order. So first the transport and then the water. Now, what was happening was that sometimes the collision was not detected. Oh, sorry guys, give me just a second. Yes, we are back. Sorry, it started raining a lot and my dog were outside. So, like I was telling you, so this was assuming that the collision always happened in this order. So first the transport, then the water. So I was saying when I detect the collision with the transport, I'm being carried, so the water I wouldn't drown. Now, what was happening, it was not always in this order. So it would mean that sometimes we jump into a turtle and the collision with the water would happen first than the turtle. And so when it collided with the water, it's being carried was false and the frog was being drowned. So the way to solve this was to create the carrier, which I explained you. So when we collide with a transport, I just save the carrier and now I know that I have a carrier. And I also added another condition, another attribute that says, is the frog in the water or not? And so basically when we collide with the water, I just said in water to true. And now what I'm doing is I'm comparing these values on an update loop. Because in this way, I know that on that frame, the collision is going to happen, the other collision is going to happen, and at the end, I'm just going to check. Okay, if I have a carrier, that's not a problem. But if I don't have a carrier, but I'm in the water, then I drown. And so I find out that this is the best way to check the collisions because I don't need to worry about the order. It's going to detect both collisions, and I'm going to save those values, and then I'm going to compare at the end of the frame. And that's what I'm doing. So basically here on the update event, as you can see, I'm setting if I have a carrier, I'm doing something. But if I don't have a carrier and I'm in the water, because this means that if I have a carrier, I do something. Otherwise, if I'm in water, which means that I'm in the water and I don't have a carrier, then the frog drowns. So this never fails. This is not like a sort of an order or something like that. No, I either am in the water and don't have a carrier, or I have a carrier and I'm in the water, so it doesn't matter. And then, coming back to the turtles, what I'm doing here is that if I have a carrier, and if that carrier is a turtle, and the way that I know that the carrier is a turtle is by checking if the carrier has behavior turtle. This is the way to check if that carrier is a turtle, because it can be a turtle or a log. So if that carrier is a turtle, and the carrier, so the turtle, is not a transport. Remember that we are setting the value of if transport to false when the turtle dives. And in this case, I'm checking exactly the carrier that is actually transporting the frog and not any turtle. So in this case, exactly, I'm saying, okay, this frog is being carried by this turtle, and if the frog is being carried by this turtle and this turtle is no longer a transport because it means that it is underwater, then I just call the frog moved. And the frog moved is basically, I'm just calling the frog moved because that's where, no, I'm coming here, sorry. No, on here, on move, sorry. Not movement. Yeah, I created a new block for a frog move that basically resets all those values about the collisions. So I'm saying that the frog move, it's not frog move here. I should rename this. Yeah, frog move doesn't make much sense. But basically what I'm doing is that, okay, the turtle is underwater. And so what I'm saying is we no longer have a carrier, and I'm setting in water to false. Actually, I could set it to true, but I'm setting it to false because what will happen is that we no longer have a carrier. The collision with the water still happens, so this is still setting the in water to true, and the updated, we no longer have a carrier, in water is to true, and we drown. And that's basically how I'm dealing with drowning when we are on top of a turtle that just went underwater. So this was the first problem that I had to. I'm just trying to check if I'm missing anything, but I don't think so. This was the first problem that I had to solve, and you can see that it involved a lot of changes in the code. But having this collision stuff is always tricky, like understanding when the collision is happening and like timing the collision, because I need this collision to happen first and this one. So it's always tricky to do this. So this seems like a good way to solve it, like detecting the collisions, setting flags about the collision. So okay, I have a carrier, I'm in water or whatever, and then on the update we are constantly checking these values and doing stuff accordingly. So this was the first bug. The second one, like I told you, it was related to the timer. So what was happening is that we have the timer running. So we were doing the block, a time block, this one, do every second. So basically what we were doing was here in the game manager, when we were spawning the player, we had a time block like this, do every second. And here inside this block, we were just decreasing the time value. Now, what was happening here was that we were canceling this block when the time reached 0, and that was not a problem, or when the player was dead. When we were killing the player, we were resetting this block. Now, what seemed to me was that we were not always canceling this block. So what would happen is that we were killing the player, resetting the player to the beginning, starting a new block from this because it is a new timer, but the old block was still running. So we'd have like 2 or 3 blocks running at the same time and decreasing the time value, and that would make the time value decrease a lot faster. And what I assume was happening was that this is checking, because we were canceling inside this block, and we were checking inside if the player is dead. We have let me just check, but I guess we have an attribute if the player is dead. Yeah, we were checking for this one. So inside this block, we were checking, okay, if the player is dead, then we cancel the block. But what I think was happening is that it might happen that we were killing the player, so we were setting the player to his death. The player was actually being killed before we entering this block. So in less than 1 second, we could kill the player and reset the player without entering this block. And so when that happened, it would mean that, okay, we were killing the player, we reset the player, we start a new block, but we weren't canceling the other one. At least this is what I am assuming that it was happening. So the way that I found that to solve this was to actually use a different way to change the value of the time. So you can see that I'm using these blocks, and these are from the attributes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they are from the attributes on the functions. And you can see that I have a block, first of all, I have a block that I can say, okay, change time to 0 over 60 seconds. And so this basically what it's going to make is like, should be used like for animation. So you can see that you have like a lot of, not the transitions, but the ease in, ease out, stuff like that. So you can use for animations, like move this from here to here with starting fast at the beginning and then going slow, or starting slow and then going fast. You can create this type of motion, let's say this way. And I'm using this. So change time to 0 over 60 seconds, which is going to say that, okay, time is going from the value that it has until 0 during 60 seconds. And that's basically what we want. So I'm setting the time to 60 and then changing it to 0 over 60 seconds. And this actually changes the value. And before that, so every time before I start changing the time again and setting the time, I just stop changing the time before. So I don't know if I need to do this, but this is just to make sure that I'm stopping changing the time. So I'm only changing the time one time on one place. And then I'm using, because of this, I had to add on the update. So you can see that I'm no longer checking if when the time is 0 to kill the player. So on the update, basically what I'm doing is if time is less or equal to 0, I just kill the player. And also on the drawing, we need to just make sure that we round the value. Where is it? Width, high score. Oh, sorry. I remember that I had to round the value, but I don't remember where I'm doing it. On player, blah, blah, blah. It should be here. Oh no, it's not here. Sorry, no, it's not here. No, because we need to round the value. It's not here. We need to round the value when we are using the time to increment the score, because when the player finishes the game, when the player not finishes the game, when the player reaches one of the houses, we are incrementing the score by the remaining time times 10 points. So what was happening here is that this time is now not being decremented 1 unit, so it's not like 60, 59, 58. It's using like a continuous value. It's using like a float value, so it's like 59 point something, so 58 point something. And what was happening here was that I was incrementing the score by the time times 10, and I was having decimal numbers. So before doing this, you just need to round the time to so you have like a whole number before incrementing the score and multiplying by 10. And this is it. I think these were at least the main bugs that I detected in the game. I'm sure that I'm gonna have more, but with time I probably get around to the other ones. But these were the main ones that I detected. And this is it. I'm thinking if I'm gonna make the progression or not in the levels, but I'll try to see what to do about that. And I still have one bug. Now that I remember, I still have one bug that I'm still going to try to fix it. It's not like that a major bug, but I'm still trying to fix it. And let me just show you. That's related to the logs of the medium size. And because the logs are, one of the logs is coming really, let me just disable the sound of this one. Here and here, yes. Okay, let me just show you. It's this one. You can see this problem right here. So you can see that this log is really close to the other one and it shouldn't be. So we have not this space, but this is the original space that we should have between all the logs, the medium-sized ones as well. And this is not working, and I have no idea why. Because we are using the same code for everything here. So you can see that all the other ones have the exact same distance between the groups or the logs, but this one is using the same code and it's not happening. I don't know. I'll try to figure it out, but if I can't, I mean, it's not like that big of a problem. So I don't know yet. And I would also like to change, now that I talk about this, I would also like to change this NPC movement because I'm not really happy with this type of thing that we need to do, like this hack that I did. This reset position and use reset position or not. All of this, I'm not happy with this, so I just need to find like a way to make it automatically. I mean, you know the groups, you know everything, so you know the distance, and just use it to calculate when you should reset the player. We shouldn't need to come here and like doing by hand the value of this one. You know, like this reset position is really crazy to do this by hand. So I'll probably try to fix this as well, but we'll see. So this is it. I mean, this was the whole experience of creating a game, creating a Frogger with Stencyl. And yeah, I'll try to see if I can still make the progressions and solve these other bugs, but these were the main ones that I wanted to show you guys. So thank you. I'll see you on the next video.